Okay, so let's tackle the biggest common challenge first. Let's talk about pornography addiction, sexual acting out, those types of things. My career started in Las Vegas, and I was the director of the only, if you can believe this, the only sexual addiction recovery clinic in Las Vegas. I'm this young therapist, and all of a sudden, it's like 250 grand spent on prostitutes and massage parlors and just things I won't even talk about, but heavy, crazy stuff. And I would say 50% of my clients were LDS and 50% were not. And we do group therapy and 30 hours a week plus 2 groups plus talking with other therapists for hours and hours, figuring out better ways for our programs and our sessions to work out. And it's heavy stuff. And I moved from there to Utah County to work at Addo. And what was interesting was I started to see these LDS couples come in and they would say, hey, I'm a porn addict. And I'd start to explore like the history of it and the frequency and not to downplay any of the behavior, but to be honest, a lot of people believe they're addicted and they do have problematic aspects of it, but they're not addicted. And really in therapy, we don't focus a ton on the frequency or the behavior because the solution is getting in tune with where you want to go and who you really are. There's a lot of things that happen where people focus on, I'm an addict, I'm bad, I do these things, I do these things. As long as you keep playing that in your head, it makes it really challenging to overcome. So where we try to get people in tune with is who they really are. We can try to connect them to their heart. And we try to help them see, okay, sometimes you act out with pornography. Sometimes you're angry. Sometimes you're unavailable or you're fighting with your wife or whatever. But other times, you're trying to be the man you're meant to be and you're succeeding. You're loving your kids. You are loving your wife. And so we try to expand that. Like, you're not just this. And sometimes, yes, like absolutely. You are addicted and we need to help you overcome that addiction. But just stopping the behavior is not enough. We want to help you be the man you're supposed to be, right? We want to help you feel confident, feel like you know how to connect to your wife, how to create emotional intimacy, sexual intimacy, spiritual intimacy. When you know how to do being a man, being a husband, being a father, what's going to give someone more strength to overcome a negative behavior than feeling good about yourself? So one of the best things that you can do as a bishop is to consistently remind them, you can overcome this. This isn't who you are. You got caught in a snare that Satan lays for men, and many a man falls into it, and God can help you out of that. And there's a lot of really great tools therapeutically that we've learned. I won't go into this too much because I feel like this is my job, not yours, but the brain science right now is awesome. Like, we know that people can shift. Their brains can heal, they can change. There's a process to it, but like that should bring so much hope. And unfortunately, I hear that in my therapy sphere. Like, commonly therapists talk about the plasticity of the brain and all this stuff, but the belief is addiction's too hard. Okay, so I mentioned I've struggled with addiction. I spent probably $30,000 going to different therapists. It was $30,000. Spent nearly 200 grand on my training and education as a therapist, trying to figure this thing out. But one of the interesting things was when I went through recovery early on, every negative thing about me was lumped into that's because you're an addict. So if I got angry, it's because you're an addict. If I was anxious, it's because you're an addict. If I was depressed, if I fight with my wife, right? All these things were lumped into me being an addict. What I've since learned is all of it is symptoms of other things. Okay, so the addiction is a symptom, the anxiety, the anger, symptoms. And the cool thing is we get to the root or the roots, sometimes there's multiple, and we can begin to help that heal. So when I meet with clients and they're talking about, they've shared with their bishop, one of the things I hear the very most that's helpful is they don't expect you to fix it. But when you can offer hope that they can do it, right? Not just that it's possible, but like that they can do it because who they are and you see the good in them, that's one of the most beneficial things. I'm going to talk in another video of the intricacies of helping with a partner. And I think you probably know at this point, the hardest part is with you have him and her together. That's challenging because there's two different perceptions that often counter each other, right? So we'll go into that in some other videos. But, you know, the key thing I want you to know about pornography addiction is I don't know the best way, there's like a spectrum. And some people are highly, highly addicted and they're not even acting out frequently. And some people are not very addicted, but they're acting out really frequently. And that seems confusing, but there's multiple things, and addiction's complex. But some people have what we call a chemical addiction, and some have an emotional addiction, and some have both. And so some people could be acting out really heavily, really frequently, and it's just because it feels good, right? And other people might not act out very often, but they're acting out to cope with the negative emotions. So it's this tricky balance. The coolest part is when we help them get their needs met in other ways, and most importantly, again, when we help them to connect to their soul, we help them see who they really are, and then we help them live from that place. We help them have success with their wives, rebuilding trust, reconnecting. We help them have success with their kids. We help them have the confidence to provide, not just financially, but, you know how to provide encouragement and love and connection and all these things. When a man starts to feel that, he can look and go, I think I can overcome this thing. I can stay away and I can fight back. So if you have more questions than that, I'm happy to go into it. But, my feeling is your realm is the spiritual side. Hope, forgiveness, atonement, repentance process. There is a process here. It's a healing. And, our job is the science piece and, the steps to heal the brain, to heal the heart, all of that. So if you have any other questions about addiction, shoot me an email, get on the phone with me. Honestly, happy anytime to answer questions. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I stopped practicing with clients to specifically build more helpful things. So I'm likely available and happy to talk anytime you need. Thanks.